Ladies and gentlemen, it is time to prepare. It's time to prepare because most people aren't ready for what's about to happen. But given the fact that you're here and you're watching this video, and I really stress watching the whole way through this video, you're not going to just know what's going to happen next for the entire market. You're going to know how to position yourself in your altcoins and what to look out for to make sure you optimize your bull run strategy. Okay, now is the time to do so. This chart behind me, also a couple other charts I'm going to show you today, indicate a massive, I can't emphasize massive enough, rally is about to happen and you have to be prepared. Now, I know you might be thinking, Kyron, we know a bull run's coming. Why is it important for you to tell us that it's coming in the next few weeks or days? Like, who cares when it comes? It's going to come. Yeah, guaranteed, okay, sure, whatever. But when you're equipped with knowing when something's going to happen, you can do things like stop buying your bloody coffees for the next couple of weeks and make your own coffee at home, or just go without, right? Deal with those headaches, or maybe not go buy lunch, maybe make lunch for the next couple of weeks. Just put as much money in the market as possible, because when we start going up, it's going to be sky's the limit, guys. It's not going to be the same buying altcoins at 3, 4, 5x from here. So, well, that's not financial advice. It's definitely, something to think about. It's friendly advice, if you will. So this chart right here might look familiar to some of you guys because it's actually one I've made myself, or at least very similar. I found this a few days ago, and it is an amazing indicator of when we are going to expect or could expect and, sort of rally for altcoins and the overall market. So basically, it kind of tracks the total three, which is, of course, all altcoins, excluding Bitcoin and Ethereum, and also tracks Bitcoin and Bitcoin's dominance and so on. Basically, when we are at the green line down here, this is a ratio of 0.1 or less. This is a great time to buy whatever one of these two are at that level. Now, right now, we can see this line down here. This is altcoins. So altcoins are at a fantastic time to buy. And you can see, going back as far as even 2019, we don't go beneath this line very often. We don't. And we just tracked beneath this now. I was going to make this video a few days ago, actually, and we weren't beneath this line. But I was going to say in the video, if I made it back then, if we go beneath it, I'm going to be buying a lot. And that's what I am doing right now because of a few other indicators as well. Now, notice that right before the last bull run, we actually went steeply beneath it, kind of like we've sort of done here. And then we just stayed in here for maybe a couple of days or a week, and then we shot straight up, okay? We shot up with Bitcoin. Very important, has to be with Bitcoin here. And we've also come down beneath it as well, but every time we do touch it, note the date. It's always been a fantastic time to accumulate altcoins every single time this goes beneath. Now, whether you want to argue buying down here would have been better for altcoins or buying up here is worse, it doesn't matter. What typically precedes the time in which we go beneath this green line for either, again, Bitcoin or altcoins, particularly altcoins, it's been a massive, massive, massive run that's come afterwards once we break above it again. So that's what I'm expecting. We might move here for the next week or 2 weeks like the last cycle, or we might be here for a bit longer like more recently in October before the massive cycle pretty much started. I don't care. It is a great time to buy. As long as we move up with Bitcoin, it is, of course, a fantastic indication. Not only this, but part of the rules of this chart says if Bitcoin is going up, but alts are going down, which is what is happening right now, what does this mean? Well, this means that we are about to have a massive bull run. This, again, happens pre-halving or at the start of a bull market, as we saw over here. So, yes, guys, this chart speaks for itself. And again, it's not just this chart I'm holding as a gospel. I came up with this exact design myself. I didn't even know this existed, and I correlated a lot of the ups and downs and, when to begin buying altcoins on those old videos. They're all in the channel. You can go watch them, right? And now this pops up. I mean, I think that obviously, thinking the same way, something's got to be right here, okay? Not only this, but all altcoins, a total of 3 right now, is moving in an ascending channel. Let's just hope that we do break above the upside once that's line down here, once that sort of chart begins peaking above the 0.1. Again, guys, the 0.1 is when you have generational wealth buy. When it comes to the red, that means you likely need to sell, or at least sell that possible asset, okay? So, not only this, but we have Raoul Pal. You might have seen this chart. He talks about something called the banana zone, and the banana zone basically is summer, every single cycle. Summer is when we typically begin to see a massive move to the upside, obviously creating kind of that shape of a banana, if you will, like an inverted banana. And, of course, followed by the red, which is sometimes even more parabolic gains, depending on the cycle, okay? I think we'll probably see a similar cycle back here to 2018, but who really does know for sure? I suggest looking into this concept created by Raoul. Yeah, it's actually more so the everything code itself. It's the concept of a banana zone is actually implemented within this, particularly itself. Either way, this is a very good sign to see. This chart's a bit old, a few months old, so we're actually kind of over here. But he's indicated a couple more weeks, maybe even another week or so, before we begin to see some massive melting gains, kind of like we've seen back here in, the first cycle, second cycle, and third cycle. This is that sort of banana curve I'm talking about here. So I think it's a matter of time before we do see this. And based on this scaling, chart, we can expect probably prices as high as $300,000. Now, I don't think that should be the gospel. I don't think anyone should be sitting there going, I'm going to sell at $300,000 or $250,000. That's kind of like a sure way to get yourself wrecked. However, what we can know is this chart, Plan B's chart, if you guys follow Plan B, a few of these indicators do track Bitcoin going as high as $200,000, $300,000. Now, personally, I have a bit of a different plan towards selling. In this case, I look more altcoin specific rather than macro specific, but I definitely will be a little bit concerned if we begin to find a large sticking point and we have a lot of influencers saying, we're going to go up to X amount of money when we're nowhere near it, okay? When, very liquid market, that sort of thing. Very similar to what happened in the last cycle when we hit $69,000 and basically, influencers were calling for $100,000 while he was going out of fashion. Now, I do want to also say, guys, this time around, if you are skeptical, we have, of course, the Ethereum ETFs just approved. This is massive. Now, the S1 filings haven't yet started, which are pretty much the end filings to actually allow these to be traded as ETFs. That's the next stage, but that's a good thing because that gives us an extra boost of momentum in the next week. I mean, it could be for a while, but next week to the next few months, whenever they are approved. But either way, they have been approved to be kind of like actually traded, but those S1 filings are pending. And to gauge sort of interest on the Bitcoin growth, we've got $12 billion of inflows, net inflows, not total inflows, but net inflows have been positive, okay? So this is a very good sign to see. Now, James Seffert, this guy over here, one of the gentlemen who actually brought us and brought myself most of the news on these ETFs for Bitcoin and Ethereum, he has come and said, based on, I think, the Hong Kong ETFs, those guys launched Bitcoin and Ethereum ETFs, that we can kind of expect about 20% of the volume and total inflows of that of Bitcoin, okay? So 20% of this, give or take, that's about, 3 billion-ish? That's a good sign in my personal opinion. However, it's not like, again, the equivalent of Bitcoin. So don't expect some massive amount of inflows to happen for Ethereum. But again, as the bull run ramps up, we will see both of those continue to gross more and more demand. Now, this is very important because what we're looking at here is not just this cycle. I think this cycle probably will have some of the most mind-melting gains because we've had so many great things happen over the last year. Plus, in the last cycle, we had COVID as well that kind of screwed up the momentum of things. And if you don't believe it, it definitely did, all right? But also, we have to zoom out and have a look. This was another post by Raoul Paul, and I actually love this, right? It kind of shows us that crypto, in terms of adoption, is even beating and excelling that of the internet, okay? We're actually tracking here in this dark green color versus the internet in this sort of like beige color, if you will. And he's kind of expecting, based on the growth of this chart, that we'll hit about 4 billion users by about 2030. Now, 4 billion users, he's compared that to basically, and right now, by the way, we're down here at like, what even is this? A few hundred million, right? Or not even a billion users yet. He's kind of compared this to having a total market cap of about $100 trillion. This is his words, not mine. But I'd have to somewhat agree with him. I mean, having billions of users, I mean, think about it. 4 billion users, that's almost like, half the world's population. I mean, by 2030, probably. So again, that's like the equivalent of the largest 8,000 odd companies tracked on this website right here, including Microsoft, Apple, Nvidia, so on. About 105 trillion. So we would be basically a separate asset class to what we know basically as the stock market, essentially, right? The entire congregation of the stock market, the NASDAQ, whatever you want to sort of say here, which is massive. And that makes sense to me. Having an official page like this that tracks the top crypto assets, and again, that might only be 8 to 10,000. I mean, we can expect a massive cull of these shit coins, hopefully happening here sometime in the next bear market. I mean, by 2030, that's the next bull market, right? This would be massive, massive. I mean, guys, we're dealing right now with an asset class of about 2.5 trillion. Last cycle, it topped out at 3 trillion. And I think this cycle, expecting anything between 5 to 12 trillion is definitely possible. That's why I've come out with my price prediction sheet, by the way, available in the private community. And we reference anywhere between 4 to 12 trillion market cap and find an average growth for each project based on those numbers. He's agreeing. I agree with him. I think it's a matter of time, guys. has to be a few steps that come into play first. So with that being said, I do want to move into altcoins individually here and give you some more tips because, again, like I said at the introduction of this video, it's one thing knowing that the market's about to move up, and it's one thing going to yourself, well, hey wife, hey husband, hey kids, let's just live a little bit frugally here for the next couple of weeks. At least, calm yourself down, just deal with the headaches for now. And then in the next month or so, we can begin spending a bit more money because, again, the market's moving up. You don't want to be dollar cost averaging too high, right? So I do want to also talk about on the altcoin level because it's one thing, again, going, okay, well, all my altcoins, my whole portfolio should be moving up. But what happens in the unfortunate circumstance that you've actually misunderstood the potential of your altcoin, okay? And that's in terms of the price appreciation, so the price prediction, but also in terms of the chance of it dumping with VCs. Now, I've made videos on both of these topics very, very extensively on my channel, so I'm not going to dive into the details, but you do need to know the basics first of all. Now, one thing I've said to everyone here, I'm using HBAR as an example, is that when you buy an altcoin, please do not buy altcoins because you think it's a good quality project and that's about it. You need to find a good buy zone and you need to be selling while the market is still liquid. There's no point in you buying Solana looking for a 10x from here or a 5x because that might be the very, very top, I'm calling the red zone over here, in which it's a very illiquid market or, it could go higher than this. You just run the extra risk of that happening. You don't really want to even be trying to sell in the gray zone. The gray zone is like where you can get away with it, but really it's not ideal. You want to be kind of trying to sell in the green zone. So in the case of Hedera HBAR, there's a few ways we can work this out for altcoins, but in this case, we plot the maximum price prediction. Again, for the price prediction here, do not just trust influencers, please. Do some more research. Again, I've got the data-driven sheet. None of my personal opinions, just data in the private community. Level 1 and above has access to that. So we plotted down $2 for HBAR, okay, as a max price prediction. Again, it could go higher than this, but we're trying to be safe on this channel, right? What we do is we mark down 25% because that really should be the very last level you look to dollar cost average out of to give you somewhat safe returns. Again, a price prediction is if I was to try to nail the exact very, very top of the market before it came crashing down again, which I can kind of best describe as what happened over here for HBAR. Now, it basically went over here earlier in this year from like 7.8 cents, it over 2x, and then instantly popped back down again. Now, imagine HBAR being at 50 cents or $1 and then pumping up and then coming straight back down again because of a narrative pump or whatever. This right here is what happens, and trying to time the top is pretty well next to impossible, so you don't really want to be here, if possible. You want to be as far low. Now, you can be in the gray zone. The gray zone, again, is okay, but really, you want to sell in the green zone, okay? So in this case, from the current price, that's about a 9.3x, 830%, but again, try to get it down as much as you can, okay? So that's all I would say in this case is just keep in mind when looking at your altcoins to make sure you're not buying an altcoin that might barely just hit the price you have to get to make it out of the market. You want to get an altcoin that can do an extra 5, maybe 10x above where you need to sell because people have to buy when you're selling. If everyone's selling the altcoin at the same time and there's no buyers, you're going to push each other back down again and sell at some crazy low level. Not just that, of course, but knowing if there's going to be a large VC dump in your particular altcoin is important as well. Now, this chart here was actually introduced to me by Susie from the private community, and we've got some great stuff over there, some great community members with a lot of knowledge in this space, and I love this chart. This should hopefully help anyone out that's looking to get an idea of their project and their VCs. Now, not many projects are listed on this. I'm going to have to actually go back here and show you guys Manta and Celestia as an example, right? So Manta over here has a high VC dominance, which means there's a lot of venture capitalists, like big money invested, but the dump pressure is low. What does that mean? Well, a lot of VCs are bought in, but they're likely not going to dump because they aren't up a lot on their gains, or as we can see over here, they just don't have access to their money yet. So this is a great way of identifying this. This is what I try to tell you guys in my videos about tokenomics. Some people listen, some people don't, but I guess having this sheet right here is good to help those who are a little bit more skeptical get a better idea of what I'm talking about. Celestia, as I said, high VC dominance as well, and they also have a high dump pressure because, guys, they're going to get about 35% of their tokens in about October of this year, and they're like 1,000x up. So they're going to be selling. That's what you have to be prepared for. Read this chart, understand some tokenomics, and make sure to plan ahead. When there's a large unlock, Who are those tokens going to? If they're going to VCs, can we expect them to dump? Will they take profit, basically? These are people. These are a bunch of people looking to make money for themselves. Okay, so most of them are happy with a 5 to a 10x. So if they're up 1,000x, they're going to take profits. If they're up 100x, they're going to take profits no matter what level or price it is or is expected to go to. So be very careful. It could give a fantastic buying opportunity, like over here with Optimism. Optimism on this sort of green bar unlocked over 2x of its supply. It only moved down at 3.4% from open to close on the day, which obviously isn't much in crypto, went sideways for 9 days. But like Celestia, because they gave a lot of their tokens to the VCs, they actually did dump the token. It went sideways and then literally came back up again and continued sideways. So this was them selling, likely accumulating, and then, pushing up more. So it's just because Celestia has a high chance of VCs to dump, and they probably will, doesn't mean that it can't correct pretty well quickly, okay? Because again, it is a solid project. Now, on the contrary, like Pith over here, we can see with Manta, a massive unlock is due, for example. Like these guys had pretty much a 2.5x of their supply as well recently. And like I called it, I'm going to hate to be that guy, but I did call it, right? What happened? Well, we had a lot of selling pressure beforehand from people like you and me, retail, getting scared of this big unlock. And then on the day, what happened? People got scared and sold. But when these VCs got their tokens, what did they do? The market pumped. Why? Because the VCs barely had any money given to them at all. Most of it was given out to, Pith's ecosystem, for example. So we can kind of use this information for our advantage. If like Pith, retail sells before the event and the event's not actually a bad thing, that gives us a great chance to get in. Like Celestia, we can expect on the day, as well as a bit before, some sell pressure. We can buy that dip and then make some more money on the top side if necessary. Thank you all for watching. I hope you have enjoyed. Pack those damn bags on financial advice, and I'll see you on the top. Take good care. Bye.